It's a constant evaluation. You have to ask, who am I? And what is it I'm trying to say with this piece of writing? Writer Unleashed is for you, a writer who has a story you want to bring onto the page and into the hearts and minds of readers. I'm Nancy Panuccio, writer, editor, and writing coach. And each week, we'll explore techniques, mindsets, and inspiration for writing stories readers can't put down. Thanks for spending some time with me today. Now let's begin. How do you get the results you're after with your novel, your memoir, your short story collection? What's the quickest route to finishing your story and successfully finding representation or self-publishing with significant sales? In this episode, we'll talk about process versus product and ways you can evaluate your own work, and ultimately how you can move closer to the end result you're after. First, let's talk about the paradox of being attached to results and not reaching them. By result, I mean the ROI, your return on investment, your investment in time, your financial investment. Maybe you hired editors. You invested 2 years, 3 years. You've rewritten your story. You've invested time in learning, writing, rewriting, and revising. For many new writers, the result they're attached to is querying an agent, getting published, replacing their day job, making a living with their writing. They're less concerned with their own experience of doing the work and more concerned with pushing it into the marketplace. They want that validation. They're eager for that validation. Now, there's nothing wrong with wanting to publish and get your work into the marketplace. It's the timing that's off. It's most often premature, and the writer has a lot of work to do on their manuscript creatively, structurally, and technique-wise before they should even think about querying an agent. Marketing your novel requires a very different muscle, and it has no place when you're writing, not until you have a solid, cohesive, compelling manuscript, and that takes time. Paradoxically, this focus on results keeps you from getting the result you want. When writers are result-focused, they're disconnected from the work. Their work doesn't feel true to the reader. So you want to release your grip on the ROI, because too much focus on outcome stops you from doing the work in the first place, especially when you're writing the first draft or the second draft. You don't want to be writing with any attachment to the end result in mind, because that can straitjacket you. It commodifies your work and limits your ability to be free and playful in your writing. You need an honest assessment of your expectations. So less focus on product, this transactional relationship with your story. If I do this, I'll get this in return. If I write this way, it'll be accepted by an agent. If I follow this structure, it'll be publishable. So fixating on the result rather than the process can get in the way of attaining the result. Now, by process, I mean the techniques, structure, your engagement with your story. So honor the process. If you're stuck in your attachment to results, here's something to think about. Results are temporary, but the process is ongoing. The process is for life. Now, you may ask, why do it without the benefit of doing it? Why put in all this time and work and often money whether you're self-publishing or going the traditional route, because there will be financial and time costs. What if after all that, there's no benefit? What's the reward? What's the ROI? And to that, I would say publishing is not the only reward, and it's temporary. The high does wear off. The writing itself is a reward. Through writing, we get to crystallize our view of the world. We move towards deeper self-knowledge and compassion for ourselves and others. And we often get to recast our past in a way that puts us in control over things that we probably didn't have control over when they happened. We get to explore and break open things that fascinate us or obsess us or haunt us. Story is deep exploration into self, into what it means to be human. So external rewards are temporary, but your process is ongoing. Even if you publish one book, the next one will still require your process. Your process will have evolved, but the reward of publishing is relatively short-lived. Your process is ongoing. Your relationship to your writing is evolving and deepening. And if you think of writing as a relationship, if it's transactional, it won't last. You'll fall out of love with writing. Any relationship that's transactional, if I do this, I expect you to do that in return. Well, that's a recipe for a contentious, unloving relationship that's bound to fail sooner or later. So thinking of your work in progress transactionally as a product ultimately will not get you the end result you're after. But how do you improve if you release your attachment to results? That's a fair question. Well, there is a way to make process and product coexist. And the way to do that is to cultivate your own ability to evaluate your own work. And by that, I mean is to evaluate your process, not your product. We often measure our work in quality. This paragraph or line is good. This section is bad, etc. This is publishable. This is not. The prose is good. The prose is not good. And this means instead of evaluating work in quality, you want to evaluate it in qualities. It's a constant evaluation. You have to ask, who am I? And what is it I'm trying to say with this piece of writing? So learn to evaluate not by quality, good writing versus bad writing, publishable versus not publishable, saleable versus not, measure qualities. So here are two qualities I always look for in manuscripts I evaluate or in scenes my coaching clients send me. Number one, presence. This is your experience of doing the work, your involvement with the work, your emotional connection to it. When you're evaluating a scene or sequence of scenes that you wrote, how present do you feel when you're reading it back? Does it hit a nerve? Do you lean in? How does your body respond? Do you have a flat reaction? Or do you feel excitement? Do you feel dread? If you are present in the writing, you will feel it in your body. You'll feel it as you write it. When I'm evaluating a scene, I'm looking for the writer's involvement. I can tell when the writer is just writing what they think a novel is supposed to read like. I can tell when they don't feel it, when they don't believe it, when they're disconnected from the text. And then the story loses steam. Now, many writers start out great. They have a great opening sequence. They have imagery. It's infused with emotion. It feels truthful. But then the story quickly starts to fall apart. As the story progresses, it doesn't feel truthful. It's all on the surface. I don't get a sense that the writer believes what he or she is writing. They don't believe in the character's dilemma. They're just using characters to serve a set of plot functions. So your presence is involvement in the scene, emotional involvement with your characters. And you can evaluate this as you write. You'll know when you're present, when you're connected versus writing what you think a story should be, when you're more focused on a set of preconceived requirements. Now, let me be clear. This is not about mining mistakes to fix in your manuscript. It's not about ferreting out flaws for your growth. We tend to go right to the critic in our head when we're evaluating our work, but that's not what we're doing here. The better question is, how do I deepen my presence in this work? That's a life practice. So you always want to be asking, what is it I believe and what is it I'm communicating here? When you approach evaluating your story this way, getting better at it becomes not a final destination, but a deepening practice. Without your presence in the writing, it screams not true. Even fiction should feel true. It gives the reader the illusion of being true. They believe in it, but you, as the author, need to believe in it first. When you're present, the story is more embodied. It's more moving. There's more imagery. It's more vivid. It feels true. When you're not present in the writing, it feels false. So 1, presence. 2, truth. I don't mean true in the sense that it really happened. I'm not referring to factual truth. And by the way, lots of writers write autobiographical fiction. Most writers are pulling from lived experience, things that really happened. And that can be a handicap because they stay too true to the experience instead of shaping it in service of the story. They write everything that happened as it happened instead of selecting their lived experience and allowing it to shape the story. They write about events. So by truth, I don't mean that it really happened. I mean, do you believe in the fiction you're creating? Truth and presence is a matter of distance. The less distance between you and the thing you create, the more true it is. The more true it will feel to your reader. It will feel less true if you're keeping distance between you and your characters. If you want to know what you need to work on, notice where in the story you're not connecting to your characters. So how do you connect? Well, you integrate with your character. Follow your lived experience into the experience of the character. What from your lived experience could be used and can be beneficial to the current problem your character is facing? If you inhabit that problem, it deepens your belief in your character. So follow your lived experience into the experience of the character. There's nothing you could experience that doesn't have a place in your fiction. We tend to hide behind our characters. The very thing you want to exclude or even reject from yourself is often what's needed to make the fiction feel true. So see more of yourself in your characters, not just your protagonist, but all of your characters, even your most troublesome characters. That will give the story mystery and power. We know when there are false notes in a story, when the writer doesn't feel connected to his or her own story. Now, I was watching the debate between Kamala Harris and Trump, and her first answer about if she thought Americans were better off now than 4 years ago was shaky. It felt rehearsed. What she no doubt thought what voters wanted to hear, but it didn't feel like she was really behind it. It was too polished. But when the subject of abortion came up, boy, was she on it. It was powerful because she believed to her core in what she was saying, and you felt it. And that's where the debate turned, I think, in her favor. There were moments where she punctuated a heartfelt answer with something that felt more rehearsed, what she thought she needed to say to win votes, to get a result, and when she was truly speaking from deeply held beliefs. Now, in story, the truth is messy. When it's too polished, it's just polished. But it doesn't feel truthful. In story, I'd rather see a messy truth than something that's polished but feels false. And by the way, so would an editor or agent, and so would your readers. Okay, let's wrap this up. Thinking of your work in progress as a product instead of focusing on your process is more likely to stop you from reaching your desired outcome. It's the difference between transactional thinking and transformational thinking. Transactional thinking says, is this any good? Will this agent like this? How should I write my proposal? Transformational thinking involves your experience of doing the work. So don't commoditize your work. Imagine a relationship. When we objectivize someone, when a relationship is transactional, that relationship does not survive. Now, there's nothing inherently wrong with transactions. It's how we pay our bills. An employer-employee relationship is transactional. We do need them. They do have a place, but it doesn't help with the creation process. It gets in the way. When we think of our works in progress as a product, we're more likely not to reach the desired result. So it's far better to focus on process. So you want to self-evaluate your work, but you want to evaluate in qualities. Here are 2 qualities you want to measure. Number 1, presence. The more present you are in your work as you write, the more powerful it will be, and ultimately, the most rewarding. Number 2, truth. You want to integrate your emotions, your lived experiences with your characters. The less distance between you and your characters, the more truthful it will feel. This is all about your own personal, emotional connection to your story. And that happens moment by moment as you're writing. When you're connecting yourself to your story, you create a self-sustaining fire, and you can keep that fire lit. So there you have it. Thanks for hanging out with me today. And if you know any writers who need some support in their writing, please share this episode or the Writer Unleashed podcast in general. And if you love what you're listening to, subscribe on your favorite listening platform and please leave me a review. Reading how this podcast impacts your writing truly lights me up and helps me create topics for the show. Till next time, keep writing, and I'll talk to you soon.